Great. I think we're gonna get started here. So Gail, I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the audience. I think I've spoken to many of you or worked on a lot of your implementations, so it's so nice for you guys to join us. My name is Gail. I head up our customer experience team, and I've been here probably almost 4 years. And this is probably the one release and our brand new feature that I am super, super excited to demo to you guys. It is a game changer. So I'm excited to have you ask questions. We've got an exciting demo coming up, and then Chris will walk through some other features that we've released recently as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. My name is Chris. I'm on the product marketing team here at Nue, and I'm really excited to chat with everyone today. Before we get started, I will let you know we're going to be sending the recording after this session. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. And with that said, let's get started. So here's how we're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so. This webinar is part of our new customer series, so I'm going to kick off by giving everyone an overview of the series and what you can expect. I'll then go into an overview of our latest releases in Lifecycle Manager. Our product team has been hard at work on releasing some powerful features that are based on feedback from all of you, so thank you for that. And they're designed to accelerate your workflows in Lifecycle Manager. And then we'll get into the really exciting part of this session with a demo of Nue AI in Lifecycle Manager, which is currently in beta. And we'll also walk you through our plans to make this generally available and how you can apply to be part of our beta program. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the new customer series for a minute. This is a series of programs that we're going to be launching specifically and exclusively for our customer base. It includes monthly webinars like this one. It will also include things like emails on our latest product releases. Now, this is something we've been doing for a while now, but we know that many of you are not on the list yet. So feel free to use the link in the slide or the link that we're about to put in the chat to go ahead and enter your email, and you'll be notified as we release new product updates. We're also going to be sharing best practices on use cases that you can share with your teams. And then, of course, events and insights from a customer advisory council, which we're going to be launching soon. Awesome. Okay, so I want to start by talking about some of what we've been hearing from you. So what you can see on this slide is kind of an overview of some of the feedback that we've been hearing. But as Gail mentioned earlier, she's been working on many of these projects with you. So I want to hear from you, Gail, on what you've been hearing from customers.
Yeah, so over the last few years, I know there's been a lot of feedback that I've heard just around subscription management changes, the midterm changes, and that involved maybe too many clicks in Lifecycle Manager or the quote line editor being too confusing. There's too many lines. It takes too long to execute all these actions. Complexity around midterm changes, how you are going to enable your sales team or your renewal specialist to do those renewals. The most common question I always hear is, how do I know when to use reconfigure or not? Like when do I actually do that? What are all my open invoices? So we heard you. We're hearing a lot of that feedback. And what's so exciting now is that as I demo new, imagine that you no longer have to click. You don't have to go find your subscription in Lifecycle Manager. You might not even need to go into quote line editor to view it. All of it is now through chat and prompts. You can even predefine the prompts. So we'll get to that. So what we wanted to just really emphasize here is that we have been hearing the feedback. We have been listening, and New AI is going to really be the game changer that I feel like your sales team and your renewal specialist and anyone working in midterm changes is really going to see.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. Great. So before we dive into New AI, I just wanted to chat through some of the enhancements that we've been making to Lifecycle Manager over the last several months. And some of these feed into what you're now going to be able to do in New AI. So starting out with change types, as Gail alluded to, midterm changes are becoming more common and more important for all of your businesses. And one thing we've done is introduce some new change types to Lifecycle Manager in the form of upgrade, downgrade, and swap. This is a common request that we see because we know many of you are running things like upsell, cross-sell, and product launch promotions. And this new change type actually allows you to change the products on a subscription without breaking the subscription, which allows you, of course, to maintain the audit trail, to accurately report on NRR, and to invoice your customers with precision. The next thing that we think if you haven't already used this, it's been out for a little bit now, but if you haven't already used this, it'll be very exciting for you. The ability to add additional changes from the line editor when you're making subscription amendments. So when you're creating a change quarter order, you can now add changes in the line editor instead of having to go back to Lifecycle Manager to add new changes. Obviously, this is going to save you a lot of clicks when making amendments, but it also allows you to visualize the impact of those changes in real time on the line editor, which is really exciting. And then a whole bunch of user experience enhancements. Too many to list here. If you're curious, it's all housed on our doc site. But some of the big ones that were hotly requested were better control over grid layouts, the ability to display more than two decimal places for products that cost less than 1% per unit. This is becoming more of a common use case as people start to roll out usage-based products. And then enhancing the subscription card so that you can see more info at a glance from Lifecycle Manager. And like I said, there's so much more than that, but I definitely want to save some time to dive into Nue AI. So we're now taking this all to the next level by introducing Nue AI to Lifecycle Manager. Nue AI is now in beta for select customers, and we'll share more details on that later. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Gail to talk about Nue AI.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so before we get into that, just a little bit of how we built this. And basically, what we have is a foundation that powers a lot of the new prompts and chats. And so I have an analogy here that might sort of explain this a little bit better. But basically, most AI summarizes text. I'm sure most of you have used ChatGPT. You ask it a question, it comes back with text and an answer. What News AI does, it actually recommends and executes intelligent transaction level process. So, if, for example, it knows what to co-term and what date to propose to co-term to, it knows when to adjust price and how to adjust price. It knows about proration. And so we've built a structure using our MCP servers to be able to enable that intelligence using our chatbot. So I think it's on the next slide that'll explain a little bit of that. And feel free to ask questions. I mean, I welcome any questions that you have as we go through this demo. So the very first layer is our APIs. Now, most of you are probably familiar with our APIs, get subscriptions, create a draft quote. It's built upon that layer of APIs. What we've introduced here is our MCP server. What the MCP server does is it is um, an intelligent layer that knows exactly who's requesting it. So do you have the set of permissions to do the request that you're asking to do? It orchestrates all of the required APIs in the right order. So imagine we have all of these number of APIs. The MCP servers knows which ones to orchestrate and when. And it returns sort of an executable. It executes the order that the AI agent, what you see here on number 3, what it's prompting. And it is model agnostic. And we'll walk through it a little bit, which is you can ask it to use your preferred method. If you have API keys for Claude, we can configure it to only use Claude. If you prefer ChatGPT, if you have an API key for that, you can also use ChatGPT. We also support Gemini. So we do support those 3 models. You can configure it with your own API, or our default model is going to be ChatGPT. Okay. And so this is a nice analogy to kind of explain how that all works. So imagine APIs are your power socket, your wall outlets, right? Those are the get subscriptions, create a quote. Those are the APIs that exist, and we're expanding our number of APIs. Now imagine your MCP server is your power strip. That's your surge protector. It's the one that knows and plugs into the APIs and knows exactly which APIs to call in which order and executes that intelligent transaction. Now your AI agent is the one that plugs in and does the prompting. Can you co-term all of my subscriptions to the furthest renewal date? Can you update quantity and renew? So it executes that transaction level intelligence that knows exactly what your quote or order or subscriptions are and what status they're in. Okay. So a couple things here when we do the configuration. So imagine if with the AI license, this is where when you log into New, we have created some new settings. This is our AI model setting. This is where you can configure with your own API keys. If you prefer a particular model, you can choose, like I said, OpenAI, Anthropic, or Gemini's model. Our default is going to be OpenAI. And you can choose to bring your own API keys and configure it that way. In the next slide, there's a couple other things that we can also allow you to do. Imagine you had a quote summary that you have predefined the prompt so that your sales rep, your renewal rep, anyone in Salesforce can see the same quote summary in the same format, in the same way for all customers. Now, as you know, as you're in your experience working with chat, if you ask it a question today, it'll answer the question. If you ask it the question tomorrow, it'll probably answer the question, but in a different format. Every time you answer a question, it often will respond similarly, but differently, right? Here, you can always customize your AI prompt so that it always answers and shows the response the same standard way in the same format you want every sales rep to see. You can do that for quote summary. You could do that for order summary as well as customer summary. So if you go to the next slide, I'll show you an example of quote summary. So imagine in your quote prompt, you say, write a clear executive summary that has, maybe the customer overview or the invoice overview and, max it to under 300 words so that, and you can test it with quotes so that every time your sales rep clicks on customer summary or quote summary, it always reflects the information in the same exact standard way. So we've created the 3 different prompts that you can predefine. If you don't predefine it, the chat bot will always respond in some format. Okay. Um, all right. So let's jump in. I am going to share my screen. And again, feel free to ask questions. I know Chris is going to monitor your questions. So let me know. You can see my screen. All right. I am in, this is familiar to you, Salesforce, Account Summit Technologies. Before I do this, I am going to just jump into here just so I can show you exactly the slides that we just walked through. So here, this is where you can default your particular provider. Today, I'm just going to use Anthropic. That's the model that I've been testing with. We default to OpenAI, but you can also use Gemini. And again, you can also use your own provider. So if you choose, a particular provider with your API keys, you can do that. Again, here's the quote summary. This is where you can create a prompt. You can select any quotes to test and predefine exactly what that prompt might look like so that you have a standard response to your sales rep, your CS specialist, your renewal specialist. The one thing here is you can also see a chat history. So over time, you can see all the different prompts and questions and responses that your sales rep or your CS reps have asked. Okay. Was there a question? Okay, so here is my Summit Technologies. Before we get into this, let me go ahead and just generate the customer summary. Now, this is just a summary of what this customer is at, what subscriptions they have, what renewals might be coming up. And towards the end, it'll also have some recommendations, so some intelligent next steps. Your renewal is coming up, you might want to talk to the customer. They have a past due invoice, you might want to reach out to them. Here we go. So there's a quick synopsis of the summary of the customer, how long they've been a customer, any contact information if one exists, all their different active subscriptions, what outstanding invoices they have, and also recommendations. So some immediate actions, you might want to contact information since one doesn't exist. You might want to take a look at that outstanding invoice balance that's coming up to due date, and it'll give you some information around next steps around the subscription. So it's a nice little synopsis of that customer. But let me go ahead and activate our customer chatbot. And rather than having this be a typing exercise, I have kind of predefined some prompts so that you can see that. So let's go ahead and show you here. Show me all the subscriptions and invoice summary. So for this particular customer, there are a number of subscriptions that they have, as well as some active invoices. In this case, you can see that they have a bundled subscription, Vroom Enterprise, with an add-on child product, as well as a standalone. So there is another subscription out there. The one thing you'll notice is that the end date. So these two subscriptions end on the 10th of the 2026, and this one is a day later. And it also shows some outstanding balances. So you can see there's the open invoices and a summary of that. So what I'm going to demo now is 3 different use cases. I'll first do a co-term. So as you noticed, these have different end dates. I'll go ahead and co-term that. The second use case I'll show you is a renew with an update quantity, which is a very common use case. I want to renew the subscription, but I also want to add 10 more at renewal date. And then we'll also do a third use case, which is a renewal with a price uplift. So let me go ahead. And like I said, I have some prompts here, so I'm not typing in front of you all. Let's go ahead and see what are all the renewal dates for this particular subscription. And I'll tell you, this particular one ends on the 10th. It was ordered on the 13th. And then there's a child product that also ends on the 10th. But we also have the third one, which ends a day later. So let me go ahead and ask chat to go ahead and co-term that subscription. And what we expect is that it will ask me what date do I want to co-term it to. Is there a particular, and it'll ask me, do I want to create an order, a quote or an order for this? So I'm going to ask it to co-term it to the furthest date. Okay, it'll say, all right, great. I'm going to extend this a day because these two are going to expire soon. So we're going to go ahead and co-term the first 2 subscriptions to the furthest one. And I'm going to tell it, let's go ahead and just create a quote. Okay, it's going to say, oh, you've got all of these ops. Do you want to use these ops? And I am going to say, no, I want to create a new opportunity. Okay, now it's going to ask me, what are all the required information I need on this op? And I'm just going to say, go ahead and give it any name, make the close date for today, and let's just put the stage and qualification. And then you'll see the different steps the prompt is taking, and it'll say, okay, great, I've got an opportunity, I've created that. Now I'm going to go ahead and co-term. It's now creating the change quote. Okay, now the quote's created. Let's go ahead and see that so that it successfully created a co-term for both Vroom Enterprise and Vroom AI, the add-on for this particular amount. Let's go ahead and launch that. And now what you'll see if I went back to edit lines, and most of you are already familiar with our quote line editor, it'll go ahead and create that quote. Yep. It'll go ahead and said, yep, I've co-termed it. Here's the 11th. I am working on, you'll notice that this particular one here is a duplicate. So I know that I've told chat not to duplicate the child. So we'll go ahead and fix that. But right now you can see that it co-termed it to the 11th. And then I can activate this. I can choose to close one the op. Now let's just assume I could have also created and activated an order. Okay. Now let's do this again. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, let's actually do something a little bit different. I actually want to renew Vroom Enterprise. And I also wanted to update the quantity of Vroom Enterprise. So let's go ahead and ask it, renew Vroom and update the quantity starting today. Today being the 13th, and I think Vroom Enterprise started in the past. It's a 3-year term. And I'm going to say, you know what, I want to update the quantity by 10 more licenses. And then it'll ask me again, how long do you want to renew it for? What is your renewal term? And I'm going to say, I just want to renew it for 1 more year. It's going to add the 10 licenses today, but I also want it to create a new quote and a new op. Okay, so it created an op, and now it's going to create a change quote for 1 year extension, updating 10 licenses starting today for that op. So let me go ahead and it'll say, it successfully created it. Let's take a look at the quote. Um, okay. It's renewed the Vroom Enterprise for another year. It's also updated the quantity by 10, and it did the same. It also renewed the child product for another year. And we can save and exit, close win this, and then it'll create and activate that order. Now, chat will also allow you to activate an order directly if you want to bypass any of the quotes or approval process. Again, that's based on sort of your process flow. For the most part, I know most of our customers have approval processes around that quote. And that's definitely something that, for this particular demo, we wanted to create the quote so that it'll simulate that approval process. But if you wanted to activate the order directly, we can certainly do that too. Okay, now let me just show the last one, which is the price uplift. Again, let's just show me all the subscriptions and invoice summary again. And in this case, we're going to renew for one more year Vroom Enterprise, but also add a 5% price uplift at renewal time. So let's go ahead and just ask chat this. Oh, let me clear out. Let me just clear out the chat history. Sometimes it does get a little confused. Let me do this again. Okay, and it says, yep, I found it. It's 65 licenses. It ends on 10/26. And I want to renew it for one more year with a 5% price uplift. Okay, and so now I'm going to just say, let's go ahead and create a quote. Yep. And I'm going to say, just name the opportunity any name. Let's make the close date for today. And yep, I created a new op. And now it's asking start date for, yes. Yes. Yes, the start date. Ah, the start date is at the end of the subscription date.
Hey, Gail, while that's loading, we got a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Uh, this person's asking, can you have Nue AI create the quote with discounts applied for a specific target price or percentage discount?
So, yes. So what I'm hearing you say is rather than prompt it to do a renew a price uplift, I want to be able to adjust the price on a particular subscription by a certain amount or a certain discount amount. Yes.
Exactly.
It's just using our adjust price. Um, Imagine what you can do in Lifecycle Manager where you adjust the price and you say, okay, for the next 3 months, I want to adjust it by 10% discount. What you can do there is what you can do in chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so this last use case, what we should expect to see is a change quote where it's a renewal with a 5% price uplift. And so in this case, it adjusted the price by 32.50. Now I don't know why there's this extra line, but it does renew it for another year up to 2027, and then adjusted the 5% uplift for another, yep, for the next year. So it has a renewal period for the adjust price. Now and this is where you as our beta customer in our cohort of beta customers, this is the exact feedback that we would like to have tested is what are all the different prompts that you need, whether it's renew, that exact question, I want to create a quote and adjust the price for the next 3 months by 5% discount. Those are all of the different prompts we'd love to test. so that we can start to really iterate on what are all the different change types we expect to see, what's some feedback that you might have for us. But these are all the things that you can do. And again, for some of our customers, they might just bypass the quote directly and just activate the order so that it updates the subscriptions, which we can also do.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. And actually, on that
Yep.
note, we have another question here, kind of
Yeah.
a similar one, but they're asking if you can set up ramped lines via chat instead of using price tags.
So what I'm hearing you say is, can I add a ramp price tag to a quote in a subscription? Is that right?
So they're saying instead of using price tags. So I suppose it could be
I
either.
see.
Like, could we do the ramped lines without the price tag, or could we
So
use
ramp,
the chat?
yep, I see you, Christina. So ramp line items are typically a discount tag. So what you're doing is if you're saying, okay, I want to be able to ramp the price year over year, and the discount goes up in year one, so maybe it's a price uplift year over year. Um, what I'm hearing you say is I want to create a net new quote and add a discount tag on that quote. And that discount tag looks like this. So it's not something today when we do the beta program right now, what we can support is any changes to existing subscriptions. What we can support tomorrow is the ability to create new quote. And I will find out about the ramp items, but there's no reason why we couldn't be able to add a ramp discount tag to a particular line item on the quote, because I know you can do that through the UI.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. Another question I saw here, we create all of our opportunities from a contact record. Will this work if I tell it to create an op from a specific contact?
Um, I can test that out. I'm not sure. Right now, if I say create an op, it will create an op. If you have a validation rule that says you cannot create an op without a contact associated to that op, I'll have to find out if we can associate that. But it sounds like every single op has to at least have a contact in that op before it can actually be created. So basically, any validation rule that you have currently on an opportunity, does it recognize that and reflect that? Um, that I'll have to find out, but I believe so.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. As Gail was saying, these types of questions and these scenarios
Yes,
are going to be super helpful for us as we kick off the beta program to understand, your exact scenarios and what needs to be supported in here because there's a lot that it can do, and it's a question of defining the exact scenarios that are most useful.
for sure. Yeah, you guys know this product the best. You've been using Lifecycle Manager more than anyone else, and so we'd love your feedback around what it is, what you'd love to see it do, what use cases you have. Um, and the whole point is really, how can I easily and quickly get through change quotes um, faster with less errors than my sales reps and renewal reps might be having today, less complex, so that it just sort of automates more a little bit of your process flow.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail.
Yeah. Any other questions? That was the last of my use cases.
We'll give you a couple minutes to think of and write in any questions. I have a couple more slides to go through, and then we'll tackle any remaining questions at the end. Awesome. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about what's coming for Nue AI. And I think based on some of the questions you've been asking, some of this is going to be quite exciting for you. So understanding that Nue AI is available now in beta and Lifecycle Manager for select customers. The plan is to roll it out in early 2026 in general availability. And then all these other items that you see here on the slide are the other ways that we're going to be rolling Nue AI out across the platform through kind of a beta and then general availability cadence as well. So the first one is a customer chatbot that rather than using only context from a single customer, uses context across all of your customers to make recommendations. And so it might be able to tell you something like, hey, for most customers that buy this product, they also buy this add-on. Would you like to add this add-on to your quote? The next is context-aware guided selling using Nue AI. And again, this is something that's been highly requested. This is coming to both the direct sales and self-serve experience. So you'll be able to have guided selling for your sellers, but your customers, if you're using self-serve, will also be able to go through guided selling in order to make a purchase. There's going to be some really exciting features in here, like product recommendations, real-time pricing insights, automated approvals, and more. So stay tuned for that one. The next is for kind of the self-service experience, whether you're doing self-service on your website or through a portal or for resellers. We're offering context-enabled e-commerce. And what that means is that you can very quickly design and build an e-commerce portal or site using New AI by basically telling it, hey, I need this functionality, I need it to look this way. It will be able to build you a prototype of that site and really minimize the amount of development work required to spin up self-service. And then finally, and I think this touches on some of the questions we were getting, is an AI-powered pricing engine. This allows you to customize and build pricing using conversational AI. So you'd be able to describe complex pricing rules in plain language, and then the AI will convert them into pricing extensions. So this is one way that you can really accelerate pricing experimentation or save a lot of clicks if you're trying to do something really complicated with your pricing. Awesome. Okay, so with that said, I have one more slide to go through, and then we're going to tackle some questions. Can't wait to share more about New AI with you. But if you want to get access to it today, here's how you can do that. Apply to join the New AI beta program. So as a thank you for joining us today, we're offering you the opportunity to apply for the beta program. The beta program is an opportunity to shape product development of New AI by working directly with our team to define the most valuable use cases for the product for you. Participating in the program gets you early access to new AI features before we roll them out publicly. So if this sounds interesting to you, we are going to put a link in the chat, and it will also be in the follow-up email if you don't have time to do it right now. It'll take you to a questionnaire, and when you fill in that questionnaire, we'll be able to let you know if you qualify for the beta program, which excitingly we're planning on kicking off as early as next week. Once you're accepted to the program, we'll be sending you some program details and a timeline. And from there, we're so excited to bring new AI to you.
And I,
So yeah, Gail.
yeah, I just wanted to jump in here, and I'm actually interested for the audience that we have here is we would prefer the testing in sandbox. Although I know that to really validate the use cases, the changes, I know that oftentimes that will only be in a production environment so that you can actually see the quote. Um, it's really just allowing your process flow to run with the use cases that you have in production. So I would be also super interested if you guys wanted to just answer here, would you be able, if you were in the beta program, test in sandbox, or would you prefer to do that in production? I don't see a lot of answers, but awesome.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Another question I saw, can you share pricing info for new AI? So um, ultimately, as of today, the plan is to have a form of a flat fee alongside usage. And because Gail alluded to the fact that you can use our out-of-the-box LLMs or bring your own, obviously that would influence pricing. If you're using the out-of-the-box, then we'd be passing along some cost, but you can also just pay for your own LLM if you already have a partnership with one of those companies. Beyond that, this is a big part of the beta program is defining how this is going to deliver value for you. And that will also help us define the exact pricing that we're going to land on. Great. It's looking like some of you are having trouble accessing the form, so I'm going to go fix that right now. Sorry about that. In the meantime, Gail, I'm going to throw a question over to you. Um,
sure.
Yeah, so a question about the sandbox. It looks like not everyone's familiar with the new sandboxes. So are you able to just share a little bit about kind of our release process and how a new sandbox can play a role in that?
Sorry, what was the question?
I've seen emails about release previews and sandboxes. So what is that all about? It looks like not everyone is using sandboxes today.
So for those on this call that have been implemented with you for the last couple of years, we did not yet introduce a new sandbox tenant, meaning an actual sandbox tenant new. Um, but in with regard to this AI, what we'd prefer is that if you have a sandbox Salesforce that's associated to a new tenant, you can test in that sandbox environment, right? Versus production. If the question is, you know, how do I know if my new tenant is a sandbox new tenant versus a production new tenant associated to my Salesforce sandbox? You can certainly submit a support ticket. We can let you know. And if you prefer a sandbox tenant, we can certainly provision a sandbox tenant for you. I hope that answers your question. Um, I can't actually read the question. I'm not sure where it was asked, but
Yeah,
hopefully that
no
answers the
problem.
question. Let me know.
And then the other question I saw was, how do I
Hmm.
control what users can do with New AI? So, fundamentally, it's built to respect the permission sets that you've built in New and Salesforce. And so, fundamentally, if a user could not see or edit something in Salesforce, they also wouldn't be able to see or edit it in New AI. So, it saves you the hassle of having to configure something different for any users that would have access to New AI.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It respects the permission set of the user in Salesforce as well as the new.
Awesome. Any other questions before we wrap up here? I put an updated form link in the chat. Oh, and it looks like I did not make that visible. Let me try that one more time. If you're using the previous link and it's not working, just request access and we'll get that to you. Um, Great. There we go. Updated link is in the chat. Thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. So as I said, we're going to be sending a follow-up email with the recording. It's going to have a link to that form. I promise the link will work. So if you fill in the form there, we'll let you know in short order whether you're accepted to the new AI beta program. The other link that we're going to be putting in there is the link to register for the customer series. And so we'll be able to notify you, hey, we have upcoming webinars. We're planning on doing this monthly. We'll be able to also update you about new product releases if you're not already receiving those. Yes, a rough ballpark on pricing would be helpful, especially for folks. Yes, we are at the end of the year. People are going through budgeting. So I hear you on that. And that's a really good point. So I'm going to work with the team to nail something down, at least for a ballpark, and we'll be able to share that soon. Okay. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thanks so much, everybody.